Now we come to one of the most clinically relevant signaling functions of BHB, its ability to inhibit the NLRP3 inflammasome. This is particularly interesting because unlike the receptor-mediated effects we've discussed, NLRP3 inhibition appears to be a direct receptor-independent action of BHB. Let me explain what this particular inflammasome, the NLRP3 inflammasome, is and why it matters. NLRP3 stands for nucleotide binding domain, leucine-rich repeat, pyrin domain containing 3. It's a multi-protein complex that serves as an innate immune sensor. When NLRP3 detects danger signals, things like ATP flowing in the outside of a cell, or uric acid crystals, or bacterial toxins, it assembles into an active, what's called inflammasome complex. This complex activates caspase 1, which then cleaves pro-interleukin 1 beta and pro-interleukin 18, which are cytokines, into their active forms. So essentially, by activating NLRP3, we activate these other pro-inflammatory cytokines. And interleukin 1 beta is one of the most potent pro-inflammatory cytokines in the body. Its dysregulation contributes to a staggering array of diseases. It has been implicated in things like type 2 diabetes, atherosclerosis, gout, Alzheimer's disease, multiple sclerosis, and various other autoinflammatory and autoimmune syndromes. In 2015, a landmark paper in Nature Medicine showed that BHB specifically inhibits the NLRP3 inflammasome. I want to emphasize specifically because BHB did not affect other inflammasomes. It didn't inhibit NLRC4 or AIM2 inflammasomes. And these are ones that are activated by things like certain bacteria as well as cytosolic DNA, respectively. So just different signals. The mechanism is fascinating in this case. BHB prevents potassium efflux from cells, a critical early step in NLRP3 activation, and it reduces the combining or the oligomerization of ASC, the adapter protein that helps assemble the inflammasome complex. This prevents ASC, what's called spec formation. In other words, all of this is simply to say that there are very specific devices and mechanisms whereby BHB is blocking the NLRP3 inflammasome from being turned on. Now, here's what caught my attention in this research, that the effect is not dependent on GPR109A. That's that first G protein-coupled receptor I mentioned. The group specifically tested this using GRP109A knockout mice and found that BHB still inhibited that activation. They also showed it wasn't dependent on AMPK activation, autophagy, reactive oxygen species reduction, or BHB's oxidation itself through the citrate cycle. The effect was a direct action of the BHB molecule itself. Even more interesting, the NLRP3 inhibition is not stereoselective. Both DBHB and LBHB can inhibit the inflammasome. This has practical implications for the ketone supplement industry. Racemic mixtures containing both enantiomers should retain this anti-inflammatory benefit. In other words, if you're getting exogenous ketones that have both D and L, you're able to add or stack the benefits on top of each other. The physiological relevance has been demonstrated in multiple disease models. BHB attenuates inflammation in models of gout, where uric acid crystals are the NLRP3 trigger. In fact, my lab published a report on that very thing just a year ago. It also reduces caspase 1 activation in various preclinical models. And in Alzheimer's disease models, BHB reduces amyloid plaque formation, microgliosis, and that spec formation through the NLRP3 inhibition. This may help explain why patients with Alzheimer's disease have been found to have lower BHB levels in their blood and brain tissue compared to age-matched controls. Their reduced capacity for this endogenous anti-inflammatory signal may contribute to the chronic neuroinflammation that drives disease progression.